Hello, you're listening to my Pop 5. Today's a little different. It's Ryan here. I am doing our very first solo episode, mainly because it's going to be pretty short. Today's different because we have an important show announcement. Now, today's announcement is something we as a group are very excited about. We hope that you are too. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So first things first, in almost every episode, in the middle of every episode, you probably hear a little ad read from me, kind of talking about how we aren't currently sponsored by anyone, but we do look for different ways for you all to support us, and you guys have and continue to, and we are super excited about that. That being said, we also have a few calls to action in our episodes, and one of those is leaving us a review. And from the time that we started the show, we have seen so many reviews come through, and every single time that I see one, it makes me so excited. But the most exciting thing here for me recently, and on last week's episode or a couple weeks ago, we read some reviews, read some people's Pop 5s on the show. And the way I close every single episode is by saying, hey, tell us what's your Pop 5 and leave us a review and we'll read it in the show. Last week, we had an amazing review on Apple from T-Marks28. And T-Mark says, Mr. Aiello's feature brought me here, and I'm so happy it did. Can't wait for more, love this format, and I think everyone absolutely has a Pop 5. Mine are Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Lord of the Rings, books and films, Ferngully, Parenthood the TV show, and Spirited Away. Thank you so much, T-Marks28, for the lovely words and for sharing what your Pop 5 is with us. I'll leave a couple comments on yours. I also love Parenthood the TV show. I think it is so good. It has a killer cast. It's one of the reasons I fell in love with Dax Shepard and have subsequently very much fallen in love with his podcast called Armchair Expert. Never really seen Lord of the Rings, or I did, but it was one of those things when I was a kid. I maybe saw it then, but didn't really remember. But due to our episode with Megan Pham, we actually talked about Lord of the Rings. So if you haven't listen to that episode, go back and listen to it because you'll have someone in common with you who has Lord of the Rings on their Pop 5. Thank you so much for the review, and keep listening, and we'd love to hear more from you. Now, getting into the nitty-gritty of what we wanted to talk about here today, important show announcement. And that show announcement is, drumroll please, my Pop 5 after next week's episode is going to be closing off what we are considering Season 1. You may have seen this from other shows, and many podcasts are kind of switching to this model of running seasons, and it's something that we are really excited about and are planning to move forward with. In short, it's one of those things where when I first started out, I definitely wanted to be like so many of those major podcasts that you may have already fallen in love with, whether it's This American Life or Armchair Expert Dax Shepard, or there's so many out there that have such a large team that are able to help them put out daily content and weekly content. And we really just, to be transparent, aren't quite there. We definitely take this show super seriously. And I have loved working with Brianna and Daniel and Veronica to put together a show that we are extremely proud of. What I realized in these past weeks, I have been doing a ton of traveling, and a lot of outside factors have kind of come into place. I'm moving into a new place in the coming month, and with everything that's going on, I just really had fears that the product and the quality of the show that we would be putting out wouldn't kind of match the expectations that we have for the show. In addition to that, I do think it's also something that by breaking the show into the seasons, we have an opportunity to then really, really focus on what season 2 looks like, curating the best guests and the guests that we want to bring to you, to do more cool stuff on social media and do more stuff to engage with you. Things like merchandise, things like more video content, things like photos and images and other ways for you guys to engage with the show and experience this on new levels. If we kept doing this show on a week-to-week basis, I truly do fear that it wouldn't be what we want it to be, and we wouldn't be able to help see this get to the potential that we want it to. So we have a ton of exciting stuff in the works. In the time that we take off between season 1 and season 2, it will not mean that we will stop working or that you will stop hearing from us. We're going to continue to post and do things on social media. We're going to continue to work really hard on doing more interviews with exciting guests, doing more special shows that we are really excited about to come out later this fall, and really just working on putting together a really incredible season 2. So we are so excited to kind of get to work on those things, and we do need to kind of halt the grind of having an episode come out every week so we can focus on really creating quality content. But that's it. That's the announcement. We are stopping after next week. We have an incredible guest. That guest is going to come on and is going to be our closer, our finale for season 1. And we are going to go out with a bang and see you again later this fall. Before we break though, and I know you're used to spending more time with us on your Wednesdays, I did want to make sure that we also took some time to share some of our favorite memories from season 1. I asked Veronica, Daniel, and Brianna to share some of their favorite memories, and I will sprinkle them throughout the show here. But first, I want to kind of talk about what my favorite memories have been from season 1 thus far. For me, the show was very much a passion project, but I think I've alluded to this more than once on the show, I did not want to do this show alone. That was the biggest thing for me. As much as it was a passion project for me, anytime I do anything, I want it to be with my friends and the people that I love and care about. And these 4 people that have kind of joined me in this endeavor, I am so happy to work with them. And when I first was starting this, and I'm going to work in chronological order here. When I first started the show, I had these pitch meetings with everyone who's involved with the show. And I remember very explicitly in the Hollywood area here in Los Angeles meeting with Veronica, and she and I were just wrapping up the filming of our project, Jumpin' Jacob, which is the film project that is actually available now for streaming at an e-film festival. It was officially accepted into the Popcorn Frights Film Festival, which started on Friday the 13th, but is actually still available through this Friday. So if you want to see Jumpin' Jacob, which is the project that Veronica and I worked on, and Daniel actually worked on briefly as well, please check it out. You can follow Jumpin' Jacob Movie on Instagram and find links there to view the film at the festival. But bringing it back to what I was saying in terms of a favorite memory for me was those first pitch meetings with the team. Veronica and I were finished wrapping up the last bit of recording for doing some audio for that film. And we met and had lunch, and I pitched to her the idea of the show. And lucky for us, she was like, yes, I very much want to be involved. And so I'm so excited about that. And Daniel, he had been my ride or die since the beginning. I've mentioned the story before about how he and I were really just pitching this idea, sitting on the side of the road and, thinking about what this show is and could be. And so he was very much with me from the beginning. But when we brought Brianna on, we had a group brunch, and, my favorite memories are sitting with these people, nervous as heck, kind of explaining, here's the idea for this project, and I would love for you to come along with the ride. And luckily, having all of them say yes. So that is one of my favorite memories from season 1. The second one, I think along the same lines, because I was so excited working with these people, both on air and behind the scenes. Our very first Our Pop 5 episode, that was definitely one of those where I was so excited to have a chat with Brianna, to bring her from off the record and onto the podcast, because I think she's so funny and has such awesome opinions on movies and film, and kind of getting the first time for all 4 of us to kind of sit in a room and chat together. We had all worked a little bit separately, and so that first Our Pop 5 was our first time all getting together and just talking and really having a good time. And I remember from that first one, we were geeking out about Olivia Rodrigo, and we had an issue with the recording, and we had to go back and re-say a specific joke that either myself or Daniel made. I don't remember anymore. And the first time we said it, I remember everyone laughing. And then Daniel realized there was something that was wrong with the recording, and we had to go back and do it again. And we talked about keeping the joke in. And so I deliver the joke, or Daniel delivers the joke, and no one laughs. And I think that was one of my favorite memories because I'm just like, come on, we all know that this joke was coming, and we ended up having to cut around it. But it was very funny. I think that was one of my favorite episodes we've done, and it was one of my favorite memories because it was the first time the four of us were able to get together and really have fun with the show in the way I originally intended it. The next one for me, I'll try to keep these next ones quick. The interview with Henry McLean. That one was one of my favorite ones. I think that's kind of when we hit our stride. The content was such that I think it was one of our first episodes where it wasn't someone that I was immediately super close with or hadn't been friends with for a long time. And Henry was someone I had admired for a long time. And I really felt that it was our first episode when we had a formula and I knew, okay, we can do this because it was kind of our first interview with a stranger of sorts. And so that was certainly one of my favorite moments. The last one I'll kind of talk through about as well is our Pop 5 related, and that was when we did our high school episode. Not so much the episode itself, but immediately after being able to do the social content and see everyone's high school photos, that was one of the coolest things for me. So not knowing any of these people in high school, seeing what they look like in their personas in high school was really funny. I will also have a soft spot in my heart for the very first episode with Ty. There was a lot that was happening that first week he was here. Ty Chico came out to Los Angeles and he spent the weekend with me, and we were working both on the Jumpin' Jacob project and decided to record this as the first episode of this show. And it was it. That was it. It was the first time, and here we are. I never thought I'd be able to have one episode out, much less 15 at this point, and today's being number 16. But here we are, and we've come so far from then. And yeah, I'm just super thankful. And season 1, I would call it a success. Moving on, let's go ahead and hear from the gang. They'll share their favorite memories, and we'll get on out of here. The first one here is from Miss Veronica.
Hey, my Pop 5 listeners. Veronica here, friend of the pod. Hi, Ryan. That is a wrap on season 1. Honestly, it has been so cool to watch you, Ryan, bring this thing to life. And seeing you shine as a host has been just incredible. Obviously, getting to interview my brother Alex with you for episode 6 was amazing. And just seeing the response from the listeners has been so cool. I cannot wait to be back for season 2. Full force, get ready, and I love playing a part of this show and getting to hang with my friends and talk about pop culture, my favorite topic. So we'll see you guys for season 2. It's going to be amazing. Love you guys.
And we love you too, Ronnie. I'm so happy that you're a part of this. Now let's hear Daniel's favorite memories from season 1.
Hey, everyone. It's Daniel here. My favorite moments of the season were between getting roasted for never playing The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time on the original Nintendo 64, and also getting roasted for being one of the emo kids in middle school wearing Jack Skellington merch head to toe. Can't wait for more interviews, and see you guys next season.
Prior to Daniel sending in that voice note, I had forgotten about it. But when he shared that, I just think it's so funny that in both instances, they were guests, making jokes about other people. And then Daniel immediately following up with, oh, that's what I was like. But either way, we love you for all of those little things that make you who you are, buddy. And we'll finish it up with Brianna's favorite memories from season 1.
Hey guys, my favorite moment from season 1 of My Pop 5 has to be from episode 1. We're bringing it back, baby, to Ty's episode. And I just loved how he shared about Ellen and how she helped him brave through his own coming out experience with his mom. I think it's a great example of how pop culture can help us get through, and also just how important it is to share all different experiences on a pop culture platform, because you never know who it might reach and who really needs to see an experience that reflects their own, and they might just feel alone otherwise. So, yeah. See you fools in season 2.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Before we go, I know you're used to getting at least an hour's worth of content from us on a weekly basis. So I'm going to kind of leave things here and leave you guys with a couple content recommendations before we go. The first for me, just some background. Like I mentioned a bit ago, I've been traveling a lot lately. I happened to be in New York City earlier this month, and I had the chance to go to one of my dream places, which was the Blue Note Jazz Club in New York. I grew up playing a lot of jazz music, and I got to go to the Blue Note and see a group with one of my favorite jazz drummers of all time, and their group was called the Cookers, and they have an incredible tune called If One Could Only See, and it is such a beautiful tune. And after leaving that performance and hearing the tune, immediately after I left, I threw my headphones in and I was walking around New York City listening to this tune, and it was such a cool experience. So if you haven't, and I doubt you have heard that song, if you haven't heard that song, please check out If One Could Only See by the Cookers. I've also really loved the new Bleachers album, Jack Antonoff's project called Take the Sadness Out of Saturday Night. Please check that out. If you're looking for podcast recommendations, one that I've really been loving is called Home Cooking with Samin Nosrat and Harishi Keshaway. Samin she's a chef who created the documentary Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, which you might have seen on Netflix. And she pairs with Harishi Keshaway, who is the podcast host for the show Song Exploder. So both of those podcasts are great, but I've been really loving Home Cooking, which is where they talk about various different recipes and take questions regarding food. And it started with the intention of what are people cooking and how are people responding to the pandemic. And over the holidays, they had some really great episodes, and I've really just been binging that show lately. On my plane ride back from my trips these past few flights, I've had the chance to watch some movies, and some movies that I think you should check out. One I watched was Minari, which was nominated for Best Picture last year, stars Steven Yeun. It's about a Korean family who comes to America seeking the American dream, and I will leave it at that. It's an excellent film. You should definitely check it out. Another movie I watched was Little Miss Sunshine. I know that's been loved for over a decade now, and I had never seen it, or I thought I had, or maybe I'd seen bits and pieces, but I watched it for the first time on the flight back, and it was phenomenal. So those are my 5 things that I would say I recommend while we are away. That'll do it for today's show. Thank you so much for listening. Next week, we are closing things off. We have one final episode for you, a grand finale with an incredible guest who I have admired for a very long time. He's an incredible musician. I will leave that at that for now. You'll kind of get to hear a little bit more about him next week. After that, we will be taking a break for a while. We will announce the season 2 date shortly, but I promise you it'll be this fall. It wouldn't be us if we didn't have episodes ready for when Taylor Swift releases her version of the Red album. So as always, please follow us on Instagram and Twitter at MyPop5. We'll see you next week. And until then, what's your Pop 5?